Scum like you has no business in a house of justice. Yeah, those words, that one ugly sentence, destroyed Officer David Thompson's entire life in a way he could have never seen coming, not in his wildest nightmares. It all started like any other Tuesday. The marble steps of the federal courthouse shimmered in the morning sun, the city's heat already rising, as Judge Diana Washington, no robes, just regular slacks and a crisp blouse, walked up slow and steady, a leather briefcase in her hand, looking for all the world like someone who owned that sidewalk. And honestly, she kind of did. Inside her bag were orders with her signature, files she'd spent nights reviewing, and enough paperwork to give an intern a panic attack. But you want to know what Officer David Thompson saw? Not any of that. No, all he saw was a black woman in nice clothes on government property, and that was enough to light his fuse. He stepped out from behind a pillar, badge flashing in the sun, all 6 feet 2 inches and 240 pounds of him blocking the path. Well, what do we have here? His voice was the kind that let you know you weren't welcome, but Diana didn't so much as flinch. She'd been up against worse. This isn't a welfare office, sweetheart. You lost? Or just looking for trouble? She looked him right in the eye, grip tightening on her briefcase, voice steady. I'm here on official business. Would you like to see my identification? He just laughed ugly, loud, making sure anyone nearby could hear. Lady, the only business you got here is the kind that lands you in handcuffs. You know that laugh, the one that says, I've done this before and no one's ever stopped me. Other officers drifted over, drawn to the scene like sharks sniffing for blood. Officer Johnson, phone out, started filming. She thinks she belongs here, Thompson. Johnson jeered. These people never learn. Thompson smirked, blocking Diana's path, dripping with sarcasm. Were you a lawyer? A judge? That's what they all say, right before they're caught where they don't belong. Diana stood her ground. Officer, if you'd examine my credentials, the only credentials you need are an arrest record, he spat, stepping in, big and close. And you're about to get one. What happened next? Security cameras caught every brutal second. Thompson's hand cracked across Diana's face so hard. Her head snapped to the side, and her briefcase with its legal documents, orders, everything scattered across the steps like fallen leaves. The sound echoed off the stone, bounced back with the promise that this wasn't going away. He grabbed her by the throat, slammed her against the wall right beneath a bronze plaque, her name on it, 20 feet up, the Honorable Judge D. Washington. But all he saw was someone to be put in her place. Scum like you has no business in a house of justice, he snarled, right up in her face. The handcuffs were cold and tight, biting into her wrists as he twisted her arms, while the other officers circled, cameras rolling, no one stopping it. They dragged her inside, Thompson announcing to Sergeant Williams at booking, attempted breach of courthouse security, resisting arrest, assault on a police officer. No one batted an eye. Just another day at the office, right? Thompson had 12 years on the force. He knew which buttons to push and which stories to tell. She was acting suspicious, carrying forged legal documents, got aggressive. He lied, his voice a waterfall of confident half-truths, practice for courtrooms that never questioned him. Diana sat in a holding cell, hands numb from the cuffs, but her mind sharper than ever. She cataloged every violation, every Supreme Court case that protected her rights. Miranda, Terry, Brady running through them in her head like an old friend's phone number. She presided over thousands of police misconduct cases, sentenced folks for less than this, but never in her wildest dreams had she been the one sitting on the cold bench, a defendant in her own courthouse, 15 feet from her own courtroom. Thompson thought he'd won. His colleagues laughed, kicked her scattered documents, filmed her humiliation, never realizing they were documenting the end of their own careers. She claimed to be a judge. Johnson scoffed, scrolling through his phone, oblivious. The new kid, Officer Miller whispered, "What happens to folks like this?" Thompson, chest out, said, "Open and shut. Maximum sentence. System works." He had no clue the system was about to bite back hard. The courtroom was packed for Diana's hearing. Judge Parker, filling in, was told only that Jane Doe had caused a scene. Thompson strutted up to the witness stand, pressed uniform, badge glinting, looking every inch the hero. He spun his story, all confidence, never flinching, painting Diana as the aggressor, hostile, evasive, tried to force her way in, assaulted me, forced me to defend myself. The prosecutor nodded, taking notes, believing every word. When it was Diana's turn, she stood slowly, cuffs clinking, and addressed the court with a voice so steady, people actually listened. "Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to clarify a few inaccuracies." Her words were precise, her citations flawless. She referenced Supreme Court precedent, explained her access to the legal documents, and requested preservation of all video evidence, naming federal rules that only an experienced judge would know by heart. The gallery began to stir, recognition dawning. When asked about her credentials, she smiled, said, "We'll get to that in a moment, Your Honor," and laid out her case piece by piece. Her request for surveillance footage and body camera backups was granted, despite Prosecutor Walsh's objections. By now, the courtroom was buzzing, the bailiff pale and wide-eyed. Diana produced her judicial parking pass, building access card, and federal ID. Bailiff Henderson, who'd seen her walk those halls for years, finally blurted out, "My God, Judge Williams, Judge Diana Williams," and everything changed in a heartbeat. The judge called a recess. Diana, back in holding, asked Henderson to fetch her black robes with the gold trim and her ceremonial gavel. When she returned to the courtroom, Henderson's voice boomed out, "All rise." The Honorable Judge Diana Washington presiding. And that, right there, was the cinematic payoff. Thompson's face went from cocky to terrified, the room so silent you could hear a pin drop. She took her seat behind the bench and called Thompson to remain standing. "Officer Thompson, do you recall your sworn testimony from earlier?" She quoted him word for word, let the transcript hang in the air, then turned her tablet to the court. The security footage played for all to see. Diana, calm, respectful, then Thompson's open palm slap, his threats, his voice dripping hate. She switched to body cam backup, audio crystal clear. Look at this uppity time to teach her a lesson. She played footage from other officers, catching their cruel jokes and laughter. The courtroom could barely breathe. And then came the reveal. "Officer Thompson, you just assaulted the federal judge presiding over this courthouse, whose authority you've worked under for a decade." She dropped the hammer, and it wasn't just for her. "For the last 8 months, I've been running a federal investigation into misconduct in your department, working with the FBI Civil Rights Division. You handed me the evidence I needed on a silver platter." She sentenced Thompson to the maximum 35 years in federal prison. His partners faced perjury, civil rights, and conspiracy charges. The department went under federal oversight. Every cop in the county required to wear tamper-proof body cams, with footage uploaded to secure servers. And that courthouse? They renamed it the Justice Washington Federal Courthouse, with a plaque honoring the morning justice found its voice. So, let's make this a conversation. Was justice served, or did it go too far? Comment where you're watching from, share your own experiences, and hit subscribe if you believe in real accountability. Stories like this matter because people like you keep them alive. Truth always finds a way.